fellow treasure hunters. It's been a while since I've done a video. I've been so busy this summer that I haven't had time to do any videos. I finally had a little break and went to the Moon Lake gathering that they had up in the Moon Lake area below Moon Lake in Altamont at the city park. And it was a lot of fun. I was able to meet a lot of people that I'd talked to and are friends with on Facebook and different groups over the years in these forums, but had never met. I was also able to meet a lot of friends and associates that I've known in the past and who I've had dealings with and haven't seen for a long time. So it's fun to catch up with them. As you can tell, I have a bit of a cold, or maybe I've got the corona, I don't know, but I've stayed home out of respect for other people for a few days here and try to catch up on things, and I decided to do a video. Of course, the main reason that I went up into one of my favorite areas in Utah, just as much as it was to catch up with people and to have a good time, and I brought one of my daughters with me that was able to go, and she was able to hang out with some of her friends and had a great time too. But aside from that, I had several projects that I needed to spend some time on up there. I was able to check off a few areas of my search for a Spanish cache that I've been looking for a number of years. And I believe I'm getting a lot closer to discovering the location as I systematically check off areas, as I do a lot of metal detecting and searching. I'm able to get a better picture of what I'm looking for, and I know that I'm having some success. I know that if there is something there, I'm going to find it, because none of these areas that I've been into have been metal detected, at least seriously, before. And I'm going to show you a few of the artifacts and things that I have found. One thing in particular that may not seem like much of a find, but got me very excited, is a part of an old shovel handle. And the reason it got me really excited is because there's a chunk of wood still stuck inside the metal shovel handle. And I'm going to have that radiocarbon dated and see how old it is, because I know that it's an old hand-forged, handmade shovel. And it's not of a style that you see anywhere in the last 100 years. So I'm kind of curious to see how that turns out. I've got a good friend that works in an anthropology department that's gonna have it dated for me. Anyway, I'm finding a lot of other things that are interesting while I'm metal detecting. Old nails. I found an old mule shoe that I'm also working on trying to find out. It's old, but it's not. I don't think it's 200 years old, but I think it's probably 120, 130 years old, somewhere in there. But anyway, the thing that encourages me is that I'm in areas that nobody's metal detected before, because if they were metal detecting with any amount of seriousness, they would have found these things and they wouldn't be there. A couple of interesting things that I found along the way is I found an old mine entrance. It's kind of shifted or moved a little bit, and there's not a big tailing pile out in front of it, so it may be more of a natural cavern, but I know it leads into a mine because above that area, as you'll see from the photos, there's a huge tailing pile that's probably about 300 or 400 yards long down a ridge. And I found the depression where the old mine shaft came in from above into this same location. And so there was a serious mine there. I took a few samples from the tailing pile that I'm going to look at. I'm going to chemically test to see if there's any mineral values. And there was a lot of interesting features in this area. There was an old road that was not made by the Forest Service. I found an old trail that is at least old enough to be made by the Spanish. I found several tree markings that, although difficult to tell, I believe they were man-made. I found a cross that's about this big, probably about 6 inches by 6 inches, and it's in a fir tree, which is a dead tree now, but the carving is approximately 1 inch to 1.25 inches deep in the shape of a cross. Now, anybody that has studied or looked at tree carvings, or somebody that's familiar with trees like I am, I worked for the Forest Service for many years as a timber cruiser, and I've seen numerous tree markings. I know and understand how these trees heal once they've been damaged or marked, and even the Forest Service in years past used to mark trees and write notations on trees in areas of timber sales and trails, and to mark trails. And one thing that's interesting about fir trees is they heal over and the bark will actually start to grow back into the scar. Now, most trees won't do this. Aspen trees, of course, they have a dark scar and they do grow back. And ponderosa trees and other trees like that, they'll have a mark and the edges of the tree will kind of heal over and cover up some of the scar or the damage, but it will still maintain, it will not grow bark back in an area that has been, the bark has been completely removed. And in this fir tree, bark has actually grown back in where it was completely removed in the shape of a cross. And the tree is the top is gone. The tree is probably 200 years old. And I'm going to say it's been dead for another 50 years. Without core sampling it, that's just a guess. It could be older. I don't think it's younger because of the location that it's growing in a rocky location is not an easy place for a tree to grow. And trees that grow in a rocky location have a tendency to grow much more slowly and do not attain their full size like a tree that's in good ground down by a stream or in flat country where it gets plenty of moisture and sunlight. Anyways, very interesting finds, and I'll go through some of the things that I've found and show you some of these artifacts. Okay. Here's some of the artifacts that I found. And some of them are pretty old and some of them are not. First I'll go through these old bullet casings. This one's a .32 Winchester Special, Remington UVC. So some of you that know and understand a lot about old guns or ammunition might know and understand what that is and the year. I don't think it's really old, but it's definitely been in the ground a few years. This is another Remington 32 Special. And these came from up by an aspen grove. I assumed that all three of these 32 Specials were found right together. And so I'm assuming, I got the cat here in the background. Go on, let's come out of here, Patchy. Come on. Come on. Do you want to make a guest appearance? Alright. Patchy wanted to make a guest appearance on the show. Oh, Patchy. Yeah. Okay. Alright, go run along now. I'm working on getting those cats to be outside cats, but I raised them from orphaned kittens, and so it's been a hard process. Okay, this bullet is of course this is a more modern 7mm Remington mag. I'm assuming that all these bullets were probably from the deer or the elk hunt. Now I have a couple of old lead bullets. This bullet here is particularly interesting. It doesn't have any jacket. There's no copper jacket, so it's an older bullet. It's pretty well mushroomed. The area that I found this in, up higher, was most likely during the elk hunt. And these smaller bullets were a little bit lower down, where most of the mule deer in the area live during the hunting season, and so I'm assuming that these other pieces are from the deer of the elk hunt. At one point I found a really old sluice or an old diversion box where they're doing irrigation, and this nail came out of some old wood. I've got a really old horseshoe nail and another 22 bullet. And then near a camping area, I found this old file, and I'm assuming that this was used in conjunction with trimming a horse's foot or a horseshoe nail or something like that, because it was found in an area where the tree, it looked like horses had been tied to the trees over the years for hunting, and so I'm assuming that's what that's all about. But still, once again, not very recent, because when I pulled this out of the ground, it snapped right in half. Been in the ground for a long time, a lot of moisture been on it. But now this find and the mule shoe were found not too far apart, and of all the finds, this old shovel handle, which I'm sure this is, I'm sure it goes, this is the shovel handle, and then your shovel would have curved down. This is your older style, but it has a good sized chunk of wood in here, and so we're going to bore in and take a sample of that and see if we can tell how old it is. But this possibly could be some of the later Spanish activity, especially the location that it was found. And this mule shoe too, it's not really old. It's definitely not silver, but I do believe that this was part of an old operation, because it was found along one of the old trails, not the newer Forest Service trails, and it was found in an area that they would have been transporting things. And we know that during the late 1800s and the early 1900s, many Spanish and Mexican groups were coming into Utah and hauling mining ore and things out of Utah, and the entire West for that matter. Above the ridge that I found these things, I found this artifact, which is Native American. I'm not sure, some kind of a tool. It's been well worked on the edges. Might have been used as a grinding stone. It doesn't have the typical shape of a grinding stone, but I know it's a tool. And you can see that it's been broken here, probably while it was being used as a pounding tool. But the whole edge of this on both sides has been ground down and worn to a little edge right there. And that would have been a tool that would have been used by the Native Americans, probably the Utes or the Shoshones, for processing probably grain or working hides or something of that matter. But it was found right up on a location where there's an old Native American camp. Okay. Now I'm going to get into some of the photos from my adventure on this trip and show you some of the mine tailings, the old trails, the old road, and some of the country.
Okay, I'm up above one tailing pile, and there's an old road. It's really old road coming up through here. I think it's going to lead me up to another mine. I'm going to go check it out. But there's no markings or anything, but I know it's an old road. I've been on them before, and it's an old trail going up through here. Old trail going up through here. There's no blazes on the trees. It's not a Forest Service trail. It's not a game trail. It's not really being used by game. Okay, an old trail coming down. It's really an old one. I don't think it's a Forest Service trail. There's no blazes on the trees in here. Okay, there's an old mine right here. You can see it's all collapsed and all this wood's over it. Well, I just found another opening to the mine. It goes down in there quite a ways. I'm gonna go down there and check it out. It's gonna be the same as goes there. Make sure there ain't no critters down in there. There's water in here. You can see the water coming out of there, out of the mountain, literally. That's wild. Where the little bees nest. Oh, there ain't no damn bees in here. Bees and bears, I don't want none of them. Oh, there's fish. Fish come out of there. See if I can get another look at him. Okay, down here in this old mine, a lot of water coming out of it. It's going way the heck back in there. You can see that it really opens up, but I ain't going in there without some kind of a rope system and telling somebody where I'm at, but it goes hella back in there. There's fish in there, I keep seeing them. Water's coming out around this corner. It's colder than crap water. Yeah, it's quite a mine back in here. Wish I could show it better.